Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. It's time for the weekly comic book review, the show where I read a lot of comic books and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first of all, I got to give a big shout out to David Hatch. David, today, one of my absolute favorite comic books of all time returns. It's fantastic, and it actually happens on the 57th or whatever anniversary of the original first issue. Isn't that cool? That's super cool to me. David Hatch, you're the greatest. You were super fantastic to me. And let's get right on to it with the pick of the week. And of course, could it be no other? It's Fantastic Four #1 from Marvel Comics. Writer Dan Slott, artist Sarah Pichelli start their long-awaited run on Fantastic Four. I am the hugest Fantastic Four fan. It is my favorite comic book of all time. If this book was just a big stinking pile, I probably would have picked it for the pick of the week. But it was actually really, really good. The only thing is that this title is more of this issue is more of a celebration and a remembrance of the Fantastic Four, more so than it is a reintroduction to the Fantastic Four. But the Fantastic Four haven't come back yet, and this issue has to set everything up, and it does a great job doing it. The character of Ben and Johnny, they are superb, handled under the writer Dan Slott here. Pichelli's pencils, I'm not usually always the biggest fan of hers. I think that sometimes it just feels a little sparse and a little loose, but this issue was pretty cool, very decent. I love her take on Johnny Storm. Looks really cool when he flames on. Thing looks massive and imposing as well. Really like the artwork in here. You have some help from like Simon Bianchi. Scotty Young does a little story at the end. It all ties up into a really wonderful celebration of who the Fantastic Four are and what a world without the Fantastic Four is. This is a fantastic comic book. It is so fun. Seriously, I have missed this book so much. It's been like over 2 years now. I have never been able to review this, so I'm super excited to do it. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be the book of the week for everybody. Go pick it up. Lots of awesome covers. The Scotty Young cover, the Art Germ cover. So many cool things, so many cool covers. But this issue is really, really cool. Doom fans definitely want to pay attention to this too, because there's a nice little Doom story that kind of sets up what Doom's going to be doing in this new era of greatness from the world's greatest comic magazine, The Fantastic Four. It returns this week, guys. It was everything I hoped it could be. It was seriously a really fun celebration. I'm really looking forward to future issues. So that's the pick of the week. Let's move on. Amazing Spider-Man returns this week with issue #3. Nick Spencer's really been pleasing a lot of fans with his run on this book, and Ryan Ottley's artwork is very dynamic. It's very fun, very boisterous. It's really cool. Perfect just for Spider-Man. The script is great. I really, really like it. Nick Spencer throws in his Spencerisms, and everything is really fun and cool. The story is nice. It's free. It's light. This is a return to the glory days of Peter Parker that a lot of people were missing in Dan Slott's run, but Nick Spencer comes right along, changes some things up, and makes his own stamp on this book and his own unique take on this book. I really like Amazing Spider-Man right now. This is a really cool cover, by the way, the Return of the Fantastic Four variant by Steve Epting. But it's really cool, got great artwork. They've got the relationship between Mary Jane and Spider-Man kicking on full gear, and it sets up some interesting things to come. And this whole story that's going right now, each issue is very fun, it's very adventurous, and it's very action-packed, and that's exactly what Spider-Man should be. And it's humorous as well. Speaking of Spider-Man, the other Spider-Man is Miles Morales. He's seriously one of the best Spider-Mans out there with one of the greatest costumes. The comic book is on hiatus right now. There are big things to come, they promise, especially in here. But this is an annual, Spider-Man annual #1, the first annual for Miles Morales as far as I remember. Brian Hill writes the majority of this issue, does a great job with it, does a great job with the character. I would like to see Hill tackle the Miles a little bit more. Nelson Blake II is the artist on here, and it actually works really, really well. Really nice artwork. It's kind of a tale of Miles set back in the days of the Secret Invasion, it seems, which is neat because since Secret Wars, we know that Miles' history has been integrated into the Marvel Universe proper history, right? So this kind of reveals a little bit of that past that we never really truly got to see. And it's got a really cool take on like his version of his Spider-Man costume before he really got a Spider-Man costume. But it's a really nice, fun story with a nice backup story about Genki learning how to drive. Driver's education with Genki and Miles, and that was really fun. Just as fun as you would imagine it, but it's really good. I like what Brian Hill's doing. We'll talk about him in just a minute. Old Man Logan rolls on through with #45, the end and finale of the Bullseye return story. Ed Brisson basically wrapping up some dangling plot points from his Bullseye series that he did a couple years ago. But it's really cool. I really want to spotlight the art because the art is fantastic. Juan Fantastic work on this book. This storyline has shown forth because of the artwork alone. The story's pretty decent. I guess if you read that Bullseye book, it's going to wrap everything up for you, but it's Old Man Logan. He's wearing down, he's beaten down, and I kind of like this. You know, this title's going to be ending in issue 50. I believe they're going to kill this character off. I think we're seeing the end of Old Man Logan, and I think we're witnessing it. It's really cool, the stuff that they've been doing in this book. Ed Brisson, the writer's been doing a fantastic job on that one. Adamantium Agenda wraps up. That's the Hunt for Wolverine miniseries. It wraps up. This has been probably my favorite out of the Hunt for Wolverine stories, but I have not liked these Hunt for Wolverine stories at all. They were basically worthless. They were not worthless. That's terrible to say. People put their hearts and souls, I don't know about their hearts and souls. People put some decent work into these books, and they come across all right. Some are better than others. Adamantium Agenda was my favorite. It kind of harkens back to the days of the New Avengers with Brian Michael Bendis and all that stuff. So that was fun. Tom Taylor, the writer, did promise that there was going to be a couple revelations at the end of this issue that could shake up X-Men history. Or the future of the X-Men, and they are very neat revelations, seriously, so it's worth checking out what those are at the end of this book. So that was kind of neat. So I still stand by the idea that this is the best of those Hunt for Wolverine stories, but ultimately none of them are really going to matter because Wolverine's not going to actually come back in either of them, I don't think. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Exiles number 6 is here. I'm loving what they're doing with Exiles right now. I remember back in the day, the Judd Winnick book, that was fun. If you're fans of that book, you will still like this one. It's got Blink, it's got the others in there as well. A little bit of Morph and Sabretooth and Nocturne, maybe to come, little teasers here and there. But this is a great issue, really fun. Rod Reyes doing the artwork. It's superb, it's great. I'm loving this story. I'm loving this gang of characters, especially that cartoon Wolverine. Saladin Ahmed's doing a great job with the script. If you had any kind of a criticism over his verbosity, his excessive verbiage in previous issues, I think a lot of that gets alleviated in this issue. A very fun issue with a tight script, nice dialogue that flows and doesn't feel too heavy or verbose on the page. But Exiles number 6, got my seal of approval. Star Wars Darth Vader is here, starting a new storyline with issue number 19. Fortress Vader number 1, continuing the whole thing that Charles Soule's been doing with this book about Vader kind of hunting down the last remaining Jedi after the Purge. And that's kind of cool, and it's neat and everything. It's maybe wearing a little bit thin. Not really, but maybe like, how long is this going to go? Shake it up. And maybe this is the story where they start shaking it up because some interesting things happen in this issue. Kamenkali and Orlandini on the artwork, Curiel's coloring. Fantastic stuff. It's Vader just being BA. It's exactly what it is, and it's exactly what it should be. Let's pop over to DC, starting with the Vertigo title. Sandman makes its triumphant return. Sandman Universe is going to be a one-shot launching this whole new Vertigo Sandman series of books. We're going to have Lucifer, The Dreaming, House of Mysteries, and what's the other one? Books of Magic, right? So this kind of sets all that up, and it seems like if you're interested in mainline Sandman, you're going to want to read this book, and you're definitely going to want to read The Dreaming. The other three seem to be secondary, complementary, if you will. But all of them get teased in this issue. Pretty decent issue, pretty so cool. It kind of sets up, I think, the main storyline of The Dreaming, and it gives you a little hint at what's to come in the other 3 books. The most of which that intrigued me was The Dreaming and Books of Magic. So that kind of stuff is interesting to me, and I really did like this issue, so definitely worth picking up. Sandman by Neil Gaiman is one of the greatest comic book series of all time. So it's nice to see those characters return, those worlds return, albeit under the hands of different writers, but so far in this first issue, you know, this is just like a sampling of what's to come, but it was pretty diggable, absolutely. Superman number 2 is here. I'm loving what Brian Michael Bendis is doing on Superman. Ivan Reyes' artwork in this issue is just glorious, intricate, highly detailed. I'm going to show you a panel that they've already showed. Look at that. It's just glorious. The new paper stock, it really doesn't hurt anything. It just shines through. Alex Sinclair's colors are amazing, and everything is so explosive and boisterous. The artwork is just, it oozes with brilliance and just definition and detail and just classic Supermanism. Like, seriously, I'm loving the art in this book right now. The story's great too. Bendis really understands who Superman is. I'm liking this story right now with Rogol, Zar, and all that stuff. The mystery kind of gets laid out just a little bit more. Earth is now in the Phantom Zone. And in this issue, Bendis back in the day, he was kind of dared to do the Nuclear Man from Superman Quest for Peace Part 4, that hated movie. That, I mean, it's a terrible movie. He said, yeah, everybody dared him to make him canon, right? Well, he does in this issue, and it works so well. And Bendis, I like that a lot. Detective Comics is here with 986 this week. This is the penultimate issue, I believe, of Brian Hill's tenure on this run. Really good, solid stuff. Great paced action issue. Really cool stuff with Orphan especially, Batgirl, Black Lightning. Bryan Hill really understands Gotham. He understands Batman. He understands the kind of story. If you're going to tell one Batman story, just give it your all, and that's what he's doing. But he's also kind of keeping in tone and rhythm with what Tynion did before. But I'm loving what he's doing on Detective Comics. Peter Tomasi's coming in at issue 1000. There's going to be some fill-ins here and there. Bryan Hill's not going to be the ongoing writer on this book, but I guarantee you, he's got an Outsiders book coming. They just haven't announced it yet. I think that's going to be a definite. Catwoman number 2 is out this week from Joelle Jones and Laura Allred. Fantastic book, by the way. Seriously, and the artwork and the coloring is great. If you like Allred's colors, if you're a big fan of things like Madman and stuff like that, you're going to love that. You're going to see that tone and feel come across in a more sophisticated type story. Not that Madman's not sophisticated, but it's silly. But I love it, right? But Catwoman is really elegant and sophisticated. I really like this run so far. Jones stretches as a writer fantastically. She does a great job. The art's superb, the storytelling, the design, the composition, everything is very just perfectly placed. But the script is really dynamic and really just on the nose. It's perfect, and it just pops and it hits and it's witty and it's great. And I really think that I'm very surprised that I love a Catwoman book so much. Flash is here with issue number 52, right? Is it 52? Yes, 52 issue of The Flash. This kicks off a brand new story. Not Wally, but Barry is now kind of dealing with the ramifications of the Flash War, realizing that there's more than just the Speed Force. There's the Sage Force and the Strength Force. That stuff starts getting examined a little bit more fully in this one. It's got really good artwork, by the way. Is that Christian Duce? Yeah, and it's great artwork by Luis Guerrero doing the coloring. Really makes it pop. That new paper really makes it pop too. Really fun issue, really cool stuff, neat Flash stuff. If you're liking what's going on in Flash right now, if you like what Joshua Williamson's been doing on the book, like I have, a little bit of multiversity type stuff's in there, I think you're going to dig this issue. Supergirl's got a brand new direction here, issue 21. Mark Andreyko is now writing this title under the kind of the direction and ideas of Bendis. And it's got amazing artwork, seriously, by Kevin McGuire. You know Kevin McGuire from Justice League back in the day. Great facial expressions, things like that. If you like his artwork, you're going to love this one. The script is all right. It's decent. It's doable. But the gist of the story is pretty neat. The new costume debuts on the cover, but not in the issue. But I think they start laying the groundwork and the seeds for why she's going to need a costume upgrade for her new adventure, which is basically she decides to go out in space and figure out who Rogol Zar, or whatever, however you pronounce his name. Trying to figure out who he is, where he comes from, the mystery of how he destroyed Krypton and what all that stuff. Basically out there for revenge. She's got his axe. She's just tearing ass through the galaxy. And it was pretty fun. It was actually really good. It was a very interesting direction for this book, and I thought it was kind of neat. I thought it was pretty decent. It wasn't great. It wasn't like in your face, like, wow. But if you're reading the Superman books and you really want to know, I think it's going to be maybe not necessary, but very cool supplementary material. Absolutely. Hawkman number 3 is out this week. Robert Venditti, Brian Hitch. They've been killing on this book. I thought issue 1 was all right. I loved issue 2. I'm loving issue 3. Lots of action. Lots of big Hawkman brawly type action. Fantastic stuff. Elegant, glorious off the page. Loved it, man. I love that Brian Hitch, I think, has really come into his own, going back from being a writer-artist to just being an artist. Great, highly detailed, big, explosive action scenes, an interesting mystery that just keeps getting deeper and more intriguing with Hawkman. It's fantastic. I'm loving it right now. Suicide Squad number 45 is out this week. I typically don't read this book, but I read it because it's part of this whole Sink Atlantis story. It's a crossover with Aquaman, and it was a nice little starting chapter. In the last end of Dan Abnett's story arc at Aquaman, Atlantis has risen to the surface of the ocean. So this is the next book that kind of directly involves that, and it was actually pretty decent. I thought it was pretty good. For a crossover especially. Eternity Girl wraps up with issue number 6 this week. I've loved this book. Very metaphysical, very meta, very just bizarre and weird, and a crazy exploration on mental health and things like that. But I loved the ending. I thought she completely nailed the ending. Sunny Lou's artwork was superb as usual. I'm loving Eternity Girl. Sad to see it go. I want to see more from this character for sure. I want to see more of Visaggio and Lou over at DC Comics. Eternity Girl was really a class act, and I cannot wait to read all 6 in one sitting. So Michael Cray is out this week. It's issue number 10, right? Yeah, and I'm caught back up on Michael Cray because I've been on a big Bryan Hill kick lately. And once again, great action, a great pace, great dialogue, just a certain pace to his books. He really does do an action comic superbly, and no exception with Michael Cray. Everything's heating up. We only got 2 issues to go. We got Constantine, we got Wonder Woman, basically, Diana Prince. I'm loving this story. I'm loving these takes on this character. Initially, I didn't really like the idea that this book was going to center around a lot of DC versions, like a lot of like Wildstorm versions of DC characters. But ultimately, it's been pretty decent, and the story that's going on with Michael Cray himself has been really interesting, and the character's spot on, but the action is just amazing. It's a very high-paced comic, and it works so well. From Aftershock Comics, we got a brand new one. It's called Hot Lunch Special, my bad. Hot Lunch Special #1. This book was awesome. From Elliot Ray Hall and Jorge Fornes. Fantastic stuff. Taylor Esposito doing the lettering, by the way. This book was great. Fornes did that Magnus book from Dynamite last year that I absolutely loved. His artwork is superb. Absolutely superb. Ray Hall's script is really interesting. It's basically about this kind of small-time operation of a restaurant/food company, right? And how even simple small business in America, especially when they try to grow, it can get wrapped up in organized crime and things like that. But it's a really cool crime story involving some neat things like a dude biting into a sandwich and there's a finger in there. And then the cool mystery, where did the finger come from? And then how did the finger get there? Really cool stuff. I really like it. A great pace, beautiful artwork, great coloring. Who was the colorist on this issue? I got to look that up. Yeah, I guess that's Fornes himself. Great work from the artist, great work from the writers, great work from the entire design lettering team, everybody. Editorial, this book was really good. This is one of your sleeper picks of the week. Definitely got to check that out. I would also recommend that you check this one out. It's called Blastosaurus #1. It's from Golden Apple Comics. It's by Fairgrade and Eiding. It's the only credits I can see are just those two last names. This book was really fun, very unique. If you like quirky, different type things, definitely want to check this one out. It's about these two kids that hear that there's a dinosaur spotted in town, so they go to try to take a picture of it to win some money. And it's this really quirky thing with really cool artwork that's really, really elegant, actually, but it's really simple but also complex. Great designs, great layouts, great storytelling, the way the story flows, the way that the images tell the story. But it gets really weird and a little sci-fi, and they do meet Blastosaurus, this like dinosaur dude. And it's just really cool, and I thought it was really awesome. You should totally check it out. From Boom Comics this week, we got Black Badge #1 from Matt Kent and Tyler Jenkins, the Grass Kings, right? And Hillary Jenkins on the coloring, Jim Campbell on the lettering. I thought artistically it was really cool, but the story was interesting. It's a neat concept. It's basically like, what if there's a super elite force of Boy Scouts that are like super black op covert, like spies and mercenaries, things like that. That's kind of an interesting concept. I didn't really like the execution that much. It didn't really grab me. Not like a lot of Matt Kent's work did typically, especially things like Mind Management. That's right, Brian. I haven't read all of Mind Management, but I've read the majority of it. Thought it was really good. But this one just didn't really grab me this week, man. I don't know why. Farmhand #2 is out from Image Comics this week. This book was awesome. Issue 1 made the pick of the week. Issue 2 is just great. It continues the story. Great dialogue. Great characters and a great story wrapped around them. A lot of family drama going on, but a lot of interesting ideas about this thing about how you can farm human body parts in this book and the consequences of that and how that happens and the mystery involved. And you wrap it all up in this family drama, and it's really interesting. It's got great dialogue, great characterization. Farmhand is amazing from Robert Guillory, who was the artist over on Chew. Really great, weird stuff. Seriously, one of the covers of the week right there. Fantastic stuff. Also from Image, we got Oblivion Song #6. This is one of the best Robert Kirkman books I've ever read. I love this book so much. This issue, seriously, one of my favorite issues. It really changes the stakes of the story. It really progresses it forward a little bit more and kind of differentiates it from some of what I think is the typical Kirkmanisms of his writing that I don't usually like, where it's just the same story repeated on a cycle, almost never ending. This at least has that illusion of change going on with it, but I'm loving Oblivion Song. I love this concept, love this idea, love the artwork so much. Lorenzo De Felici, fantastic stuff. Really like this. Great characterizations too, and some decent dialogue. The Dead Hand is out with issue #5. This is the big, let's explain a little bit about what exactly is going on in this book, and I'm loving it. This Kyle Higgins, is it Stephen Mooney? Yeah, absolutely, Stephen Mooney. Jordy Belair and Clayton Cowles doing a great job on this book. Cold War, espionage spy, almost superhero, but not really, big mystery type thing. I'm loving it. It's like spy, Cold War. It's more like a Cold War spy type thing. If you're into that kind of jazz, you're going to like this. Dead Hand's really cool. I like it a lot. This issue really explains a lot of stuff, and I'm eager to go back and read it all in one big chunk. Outpost Zero #2 is here. I thought the first issue was decent. It's about this outpost, and they got through this big storm, and there's kind of a mystery about the suicide that happened. But seriously, I read this issue and I was just kind of like, didn't really care, didn't really remember too much about the first issue, had to be filled in with the story, and it did a decent job of it, but it just didn't engage me. The first issue was good enough, I remember to read issue 2, but after issue 2, it just didn't really grab me. Another one that was kind of like that is Relay. I think that Relay's got a really cool concept, and it's got some really nice philosophy in it, but it doesn't make for a very exciting comic book. It's kind of boring to read, and it kind of gets bogged down by the weight of its own philosophy at times. It's just a little too much. It's just a little too much, I don't know, just a little too much of it, you know? I mean, it's pretty good, and I like the ideas, but it doesn't provide an exciting read. And that's the only problem with Relay for me right now, but I like the ideas inside of it, and I like the presentation of those ideas, but just not as a comic book. Does that make sense? So I'm really excited to kind of trade weight that, get back to it, and read it all in one big chunk when I'm in the mood for something like that. But if you're just in the mood for a fun comic book, you're not going to get that with Relay, but it's a really cool idea and premise. And I think it's got some really cool ideas that you got to let sink in. But I'm going to have to wait on that because I think that's better in a big chunk. She Could Fly number 2 was here. I thought issue 1 was a really cool exploration of how to show OCD type behavior and things like that through a comic book. And by issue 2, though, that's still there and that's interesting and it's very effective the way that they deliver that through the art and the script. But ultimately, the script is kind of like nonsensical, and maybe that's the point of it, but it got really confusing, boring at times, interesting at other times, but very uneven, up and down, and I just really didn't care at the end of it. But one book that I do care about is Nancy Drew, and I never thought I would care about Nancy Drew so much, but Kelly Thompson and Jen St. Ong are doing this book, and it's fantastic. I've been fans of theirs since their work over at Jim and the Holograms, but this Dynamite book, which I don't usually read Dynamite books, but Nancy Drew is fun. It's great, a great mystery. It's Nancy Drew, but grown up. It's grown up, great dialogue, everything you expect from Kelly Thompson, which means brilliant pacing, great dialogue, and just amazing characters that just are so full of charm and wit that you just immediately fall in love with them. That's what Thompson does so well. Jen's artwork is absolutely fantastic. I love her characters. I love her design work. Everything flows so perfectly. Nancy Drew is seriously one of those books that you're not reading that you totally should. So that's what I read this week, and that's what I thought about it. Some great stuff from Brian Hill this week. Superman was really cool. Sandman was a nice little kickoff into this new era of Sandman-esque stories. I'm glad that The Hunt for Wolverine is wrapping up, aren't you? Isn't that Vader cover super BA, by the way? Exiles is great, but don't forget, Fantastic Four. It's the big day. It's a lot of hype. It may not live up to the hype for you, but seriously, buy an issue of Fantastic Four. There are lots of cool covers. Just prove to Marvel that we needed this book the whole time. Do it for me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Please do let me know what your favorite comic books of the week were and what you thought of Fantastic Four in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And check us out at popculturephilosophers.com for our podcast and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.